to visit my husband in prison the other day, and honestly, he looked exhausted. Before leaving, I pulled aside a correctional officer and said, "You really shouldn't make my husband work so hard." The officer laughed right in my face and said, "Ma'am, are you kidding? He just eats, sleeps, and sits in his cell all day." I crossed my arms and said, "Well, that's not what he told me." The officer raised an eyebrow and asked, "Oh, really? What did he say?" I leaned in and whispered, "He said he's been digging a tunnel for months." The officer stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. That's when I realized my husband might be tired, but not from prison work. He's exhausted from keeping his escape plan believable.
An 83-year-old woman decided that she'd seen and done everything, and the time had come to depart from this world. After considering various methods of doing away with herself, she came to the conclusion that the quickest and surest method would be to shoot herself through the heart. The trouble was, she wasn't certain about exactly where her heart was. So she phoned her doctor and asked him. The doctor told her that her heart was located 2 inches below her left nipple. When he shot herself, she shouted, "Ouch, my knee!" I walked into a convenience store feeling like a criminal mastermind. Emphasis on feeling. I casually offered the clerk $1 for a pack of gum, thinking I was super slick. While he was distracted, I grabbed $40 from the register and strutted out like I'd just pulled off a movie heist. Then I got outside and suddenly my brain hit the brakes. I turned around, walked right back in and asked, did I pay for the gum? The clerk stared at me like he was watching a live comedy show. Turns out he had already called the police while I was gone for my dramatic 1-minute escape. I didn't even make it to the sidewalk before the cops showed up. That's the story of how I robbed a store, and then returned for customer service. I'm a well-respected surgeon, and one evening I finally got home after a long, exhausting day and collapsed onto my sofa. I had just started watching the evening news when my phone rang. I answered calmly and heard the familiar voice of one of my colleagues on the other end. He said very urgently, "We need a fourth for poker." Without missing a beat, I whispered, "I'll be right over." As I grabbed my coat, my wife looked at me with concern and asked, "Is it serious?" I paused, put on my most professional face, and said, "Oh yes, very serious." She looked worried. So I added gravely, "In fact, 3 doctors are already there." I rushed out the door feeling heroic, ready to save the night with a full house. For 2 businessmen were taking a break while setting up their soon-to-open store's shelving units. There they sat in the middle of nothing but empty shelves. One said, "I bet any minute now some smart aleck will stick his head in the door and ask what we're selling." Within minutes, a man did just that. "Hey boys, what you selling?" One businessman responded sarcastically, "We're selling assholes." Without missing a beat, the man rejoined, "Looks like business is good. You only got 2 left."